You know what's funny? Men will never admit the things that actually pull them in. They'll act tough, act distant, act like they don't care, but deep down, there are certain qualities in a woman that make them stop, pay attention, and rethink everything they thought they wanted. And here's the twist. It's rarely the things women chase, and it's always the things men quietly respect. So if you've ever wondered what separates the woman he entertains from the woman he admires, you're about to hear the truth he'll never say out loud. Men admire the woman who doesn't chase validation. Not because she's arrogant, not because she's cold, but because she knows her worth without needing anyone else to measure it for her. Think about it for a moment. How often do we see women desperate for attention, constantly refreshing their phones, waiting for a text that may never come, or overthinking a comment that he barely even noticed? That behavior, subtle as it may seem, tells a man everything he needs to know, that she does not value herself enough to stand firm. And let me tell you, nothing kills attraction faster than neediness. Men don't just notice it, they feel it. And they react to it on a level that's deeper than words. When a woman stops chasing validation, something powerful happens. She becomes magnetic. She doesn't have to compete for his attention because her attention is already fully on herself. She invests in her life, her passions, her growth, her friends, and her goals. She laughs without permission. She smiles without expectation. And when a man sees that, he doesn't feel relief, he feels respect, deep respect. He recognizes her strength before he even realizes why he's drawn in. It's not about ignoring him or being unavailable. It's about refusing to center your happiness on someone else's inconsistency. A woman who understands this is confident in her decisions, calm in her interactions, and clear about her boundaries. She doesn't over-explain herself or apologize for her needs. And men, more than anything, admire a woman who walks into a room knowing exactly who she is and what she stands for. They notice the way she carries herself when she's not performing for anyone, when she's not waiting for approval, when she's fully herself. That authenticity is rare, and rarity commands attention. Think about this: a man might enjoy the chase, but he doesn't respect the constant chasing. When a woman chases, she puts her power in his hands. When she stops, she takes it back. Suddenly, the dynamic changes. He starts noticing things he overlooked. The little smiles, the laughter that comes from genuine joy, the confidence that doesn't need to be validated. Men secretly admire this kind of self-assured presence because it challenges them in a way that is irresistible. It forces him to meet her at her level, to rise to her standards, and to show who he really is. A woman who doesn't chase validation also inspires growth. She reminds him that attraction isn't about control or attention, it's about respect, integrity, and shared energy. She becomes someone he can't take for granted because she has nothing to prove and everything to live for. That is magnetic, and it's something no amount of manipulation or charm can fake. Men are wired to notice authenticity. They are drawn to self-respect because it signals strength, stability, and independence. These are qualities they admire in secret because they understand, even if they can't always put it into words, that a woman who respects herself demands to be respected. So if you want to be truly admired, stop trying to be seen. Stop trying to be validated. Invest that energy in yourself. Laugh harder. Love yourself more. Own your mornings, your afternoons, your nights. Let your life shine without asking anyone for permission. Because when you do, men don't just notice you, they admire you. And that admiration, my friend, is far more powerful than any fleeting attention ever could be. And that's exactly the woman who stands apart, the woman who leaves a mark, the woman who doesn't chasey, because she already knows she's worth chasing. Men admire a woman who has emotional discipline, not emotional chaos. And I want you to really feel that it's not about bottling up your feelings. It's not about pretending nothing affects you. No, it's much deeper than that. It's about understanding your emotions, owning them, and responding with clarity and control. Think about it: life throws curveballs, relationships test us, and people say things that sting. A woman who reacts impulsively to every jab or every slight doesn't inspire admiration, she inspires exhaustion. Men notice the difference between a woman who reacts and a woman who responds, and it affects how they feel about her on a level she may never even see. Emotional discipline doesn't mean you're robotic. It means you don't let anger, frustration, or insecurity dictate your actions. It means when he says something careless, you pause before you speak, you measure your words, and you choose the response that preserves your dignity. That patience, that control, is magnetic because it communicates something incredibly powerful, that you are not dependent on his moods to define yours. Men admire women who carry themselves with steady energy, who don't crumble or explode when life gets messy, because it shows strength they instinctively respect. You see, men are often drawn to strength in silence. They notice the woman who can be hurt, disappointed, or frustrated and still maintain her composure. She doesn't have to yell, throw things, or guilt him into feeling sorry. She navigates conflict with a quiet power, showing him that her self-respect and peace come first. And here's the truth. That level of discipline makes a man stop taking things for granted. He begins to see her as a force, not a toy, not someone to manipulate, not someone to test. She becomes a standard, not a challenge, but a benchmark of respect and integrity. Emotional discipline also allows a woman to communicate effectively. She can express how she feels without turning it into a battlefield. She can hold space for her own emotions while holding space for his. This balance is rare. Most people live in extremes, swinging between overreaction and suppression. A woman who finds the middle ground, who can acknowledge her feelings and share them without creating chaos, is the kind of woman a man admires quietly. He feels the difference, even if he can't always put it into words. And let's be clear, this isn't about being perfect. It's about awareness and choice. A woman with emotional discipline makes deliberate choices about how she shows up in her life, in her relationships, and in her interactions. She doesn't allow someone else's immaturity to dictate her emotional state. She doesn't let fleeting frustrations become long-term resentment. She takes responsibility for her peace. And when a man sees that, it awakens a level of admiration that goes far beyond attraction. It's respect, it's awe, it's quiet acknowledgement of her power. The irony is, men often try to hide this admiration. They won't say it out loud because society teaches them to prize dominance, to respond to drama with distraction. But deep inside, they are drawn to it. They are drawn to the woman who doesn't overreact, who doesn't fall apart at the first sign of conflict, who doesn't turn every disagreement into a performance. That woman is rare. That woman commands space without asking for it. And that woman inspires loyalty because she is steady, reliable, and strong in her emotional center. So if you want to be truly admired, learn to manage your emotions, not suppress them. Pause before you respond, choose dignity over impulse. Communicate your truth without chaos. Show him without saying a word that your emotional world is yours to govern, and he will notice, even if he can't say why. Because the woman who masters her emotions is a woman no one forgets. Men admire a woman who has standards, not threats. And let me be clear, this is not about being rigid, controlling, or issuing ultimatums to get what you want. It's about quiet, unwavering self-respect that sets the tone for how you allow yourself to be treated. A woman with standards knows her worth, and she refuses to settle for less. She doesn't have to scream it. She doesn't have to prove it. Her boundaries speak louder than any words ever could. Men notice this because it's rare, and it instantly separates her from the crowd. Think about it. Most people confuse boundaries with limitations. They think setting a standard means being difficult or unapproachable. But a woman who truly understands herself knows that boundaries are a form of respect, respect for herself and respect for others. She doesn't tolerate disrespect, lies, manipulation, or games. She calmly communicates what is acceptable and what isn't, and she follows through. This is powerful because it signals to a man that she is not just another option, not just another fleeting presence. She is a woman who honors herself, and in doing so, commands his attention and respect in ways that nothing else can. Men are drawn to consistency. They notice the woman who doesn't bend with every whim, who doesn't compromise her values for temporary comfort. When a woman sets her standards, she creates a space where only those willing to rise to her level can enter. This doesn't mean she's inflexible or unkind. It means she values herself enough to never settle for less than she deserves. And that is deeply attractive because it shows strength, maturity, and integrity, qualities that a man admires quietly, often without even realizing why. There's a subtle power in standards that is easy to overlook. When a woman refuses to tolerate disrespect, she teaches a man how to behave around her without saying a word. She doesn't have to nag, argue, or manipulate. Her boundaries are a quiet instruction manual for how she expects to be treated, and men respond to that instruction not out of fear, but out of admiration. Because in a world full of chaos and compromise, a woman with standards is a beacon of clarity. She doesn't just draw attention, she draws respect. The difference between a woman with standards and a woman who threatens is stark. Threats are loud, desperate, and manipulative. They demand, they push, they guilt. Standards are silent, firm, and self-affirming. A man can sense the difference immediately. When a woman threatens, she pushes him away. When a woman maintains her standards, she pulls him in. It's a magnetic energy that comes from confidence, from knowing who you are, and from refusing to settle for anything less than you deserve. Men also admire the woman who protects her heart while still being open. She sets standards not to build walls, but to create a foundation of respect. She doesn't compromise herself to keep someone around. She doesn't chase validation. She loves herself enough to demand respect and dignity, and in doing so, she teaches him to rise to her level or step aside. And this is where admiration is born. It's quiet, it's subtle, and it is incredibly powerful because it comes from integrity, not manipulation. So if you want to be admired in a way that goes beyond fleeting attraction, define your standards. Set your boundaries. Hold yourself to the values that matter to you, and refuse to settle for anything less. Don't threaten, don't nag, don't manipulate. Simply honor yourself, live by your principles, and watch as men notice, respect, and quietly admire a woman who knows exactly what she is worth. Men admire a woman who chooses growth over gossip and peace over drama. And this is where so many women unknowingly lose their power, because the world is full of noise, full of distraction, and full of people who thrive on chaos. Most women get caught up in the petty arguments, the unnecessary comparisons, the constant commentary on what everyone else is doing. They focus on what they don't have, what someone else said, or what someone else is doing better. And in that chaos, their light gets dimmed. But a woman who rises above it all, who invests in herself instead of chasing the opinions of the world, becomes magnetic in ways that men notice instantly. Think about it. A man can't help but admire a woman who is building herself, who is improving herself, who is taking deliberate steps to grow into her highest potential. She doesn't need to put anyone else down to feel better about herself, and she doesn't waste time in shallow conversations that lead nowhere. Her energy is focused, intentional, and full of purpose. Men sense that energy immediately because it communicates confidence, stability, and self-respect. When she talks about ideas, about passions, about dreams. She inspires curiosity rather than debate. She challenges without threatening. And that kind of woman is rare, so rare that when a man finds her, he takes notice, even if he never says it out loud. Drama is another thing men notice, even if they pretend it doesn't exist. A woman who reacts to every slight, who argues over minor things, who lets small disappointments grow into emotional storms, becomes exhausting to be around. But a woman who prioritizes peace, who chooses her battles, and who remains composed in difficult situations commands respect. She doesn't allow her emotions to hijack her decisions. She doesn't allow temporary irritation to dictate her relationships. Instead, she approaches conflict with clarity, calmness, and fairness. That isn't weakness. That is strength. Quiet strength, magnetic strength, strength that men admire deeply because it signals stability and wisdom. Growth and peace are interconnected. A woman who is committed to her own growth automatically seeks peace, because she knows that drama is wasted energy, and wasted energy prevents progress. She surrounds herself with people who lift her up, not bring her down. She chooses experiences that challenge her in ways that matter. She invests in her mind, her body, her spirit. She reads, she learns, she explores, she expands. And when a man sees a woman like this, he admires the way she's constantly becoming a better version of herself. He notices her discipline, her dedication, her clarity of purpose. He notices that she doesn't rely on anyone else to give her meaning, because she already carries it within herself. And here's the truth: men secretly respect women who don't settle for mediocrity in any part of their lives, including their social interactions. A woman who prioritizes growth over gossip doesn't just elevate herself, she elevates everyone around her. She becomes someone worth admiring, someone worth respecting, someone who inspires not because she forces it, but because it's a natural byproduct of her focus and her values. Men notice this because they instinctively recognize strength that is subtle but undeniable. So if you want to truly command admiration, stop feeding the drama. Stop participating in gossip. Focus on your growth. Build yourself, elevate your mind, invest in your passions, and create a life that inspires respect. When you do, men don't just notice you. They admire you in ways that go far deeper than attraction. Men admire a woman who embodies softness without being a pushover. And this is where many misunderstand what strength and femininity really mean. There is a misconception that to be strong, a woman must be harsh, unyielding, or aggressive. That's not true. Strength isn't about rigidity, and femininity isn't about weakness. Men are drawn to a woman who can be gentle, nurturing, and kind, yet still hold firm to her principles. That balance, that quiet confidence wrapped in softness, is magnetic because it signals self-assurance, awareness, and control. Think about it. A woman who is soft doesn't need to raise her voice to be heard. She doesn't need to manipulate, threaten, or overcompensate. Her energy speaks for her. There's an elegance in someone who can maintain their composure, offer kindness without expecting anything in return, and still stand her ground when it matters. Men notice this instantly, often without being able to explain it. They feel the difference between someone who is simply agreeable and someone whose softness is rooted in strength, integrity, and self-respect. Softness without weakness also communicates security. A man admires a woman who can be vulnerable without letting it become a liability. She can share her thoughts and feelings, express her desires and dreams, and allow herself to care deeply, all without losing herself in the process. She can trust, she can nurture, and she can love, but she never compromises her standards or her dignity. That combination is rare. It's not the same as being naive or overly trusting. It's the kind of woman who knows her worth, and her gentleness is a conscious choice rather than a default reaction. Men are instinctively drawn to this because it creates a sense of balance. Most people live in extremes: harshness, aggression, drama, or passive submission. A woman who embodies gentle strength offers something different. She doesn't demand, she doesn't control, she doesn't manipulate. She simply exists with clarity, authenticity, and quiet power, and a man notices that. He respects it. He admires it, often more than he admits, because in her softness there is no chaos, no games, only a presence that commands attention and inspires trust. This kind of softness also demonstrates emotional intelligence. She knows when to speak, when to listen, when to act, and when to pause. She can comfort without smothering, guide without forcing, and lead without dominating. And men admire this because it creates a relationship dynamic that feels effortless yet profound. Her strength is invisible in a way that only true discernment can appreciate. It doesn't need to be broadcast. It's recognized in the way she carries herself, in the way she handles challenges, and in the way she interacts with the people around her. Another aspect is resilience. A soft woman who is strong can absorb life's difficulties without letting them break her spirit. She can recover from disappointment from others or circumstances with grace. She doesn't react with anger or desperation. She adjusts, learns, and moves forward. That resilience wrapped in gentleness creates admiration because it's the embodiment of balance. Someone who can give love and still protect herself. Someone who can be tender and still unshakable. So if you want to be deeply admired, embrace your softness without fear. Let it coexist with your strength. Be nurturing, be kind, be feminine, but never lose your backbone. Be gentle, but let your standards and self-respect shine through. When you do, men notice. They admire quietly, deeply, and in ways that last far longer than fleeting attention. Because the woman who is soft yet strong is unforgettable. Men admire a woman who can walk away, even from what she loves. And this is a truth that many women struggle to accept because love is often mistaken for surrender. But admiration isn't built on desperation, and attraction isn't nurtured through dependence. The woman who knows her worth understands that her value is not tied to anyone's presence or affection. She can love deeply, passionately, and sincerely, but she will never allow that love to chain her to someone who does not respect, honor, or appreciate her. And that ability to walk away, to prioritize herself even when it hurts, is one of the most magnetic qualities a man can see. Think about it. Most people confuse attachment with loyalty or fear with commitment. They stay in situations where they are undervalued, underappreciated, or even mistreated, believing that love requires sacrifice at any cost. But a woman who walks away from what doesn't serve her shows a man something far more compelling than compliance. She shows strength, self-respect, and independence. That combination commands quiet admiration. It communicates that her life, her peace, and her dignity are non-negotiable, and men notice this on a level deeper than physical attraction. It resonates with something primal, something instinctual. Walking away isn't about punishment, it's about clarity. It's about understanding that love isn't about possession, and relationships aren't about neediness. It's about being willing to step back when the balance of respect is missing, when her values are compromised, or when she is not being treated the way she deserves. And men notice this because it's rare. They see so many women overextending themselves, bending, begging, and compromising, and then along comes a woman who loves freely but fiercely protects herself. It makes them stop and take notice. It makes them realize that to truly earn her presence, they must rise to her level. There's also a quiet courage in this ability. Walking away from what you love is one of the most difficult things a person can do because it requires confronting fear, uncertainty, and even loneliness. It requires faith in yourself, in your ability to thrive without someone else, and in the knowledge that your happiness isn't tied to another's approval. Men sense this courage. They see that her strength is not loud or abrasive, but it's steady, resolute, and unwavering. And admiration is born from recognizing that strength, even if they never voice it. This quality also teaches balance in relationships. A woman who can walk away shows that love is a choice, not a necessity. She doesn't manipulate, guilt, or pressure. She simply honors herself enough to step away when respect or reciprocity is missing. And that teaches a man, in the most subtle and powerful way, that she cannot be taken for granted. He realizes that if he wants her fully, he must be fully present, fully respectful, and fully committed. That realization cultivates admiration, loyalty, and genuine investment. And let's be clear, walking away doesn't mean a woman is cold, unfeeling, or incapable of deep connection. On the contrary, it means she is fully capable of love, fully capable of commitment, and fully capable of passion, but only on terms that honor her value. She is the woman who loves without losing herself, who gives without abandoning her standards, and who invests without erasing her identity. Men notice this because it is rare, it is powerful, and it is unforgettable. So if you want to be truly admired, cultivate the courage to walk away when necessary, love freely, love fully, but never allow anyone to diminish your value. Protect your peace, honor your worth, and trust that the right people will rise to meet you, not push you down. Because the woman who can walk away from what she loves is the woman no man ever forgets.